from Cognite and AkerBP, and I've been honored by introducing first of all Thierry Laupretre. His background is reservoir engineer. He's been worked in several subsurface management positions. He's now leading our reservoir improvement and performance team in AkerBP. So he's responsible for improving our way of work, including digitalization. And then we have Trygve Karper, Cognite. He's leading data science in Cognite. He has a PhD in mathematics. He has worked at NTNU and also at Schlumberger. So, go ahead.
All right, so for my talk, we have to lift ourselves a little bit out of the subsurface area, which I don't understand or know much about, unfortunately. I'll try to make it relevant for you guys as well. So when we in Cognite go around and we talk about digitalization and machine learning and so on, and we ask companies, what do you do and where are you and can we learn something from you? Because we are very eager at going around learning from other companies. These are the words we hear. So it's like proof of concepts, pilots, tests, stuff like that. And I cannot think about anything I've heard that is actually operationalized at the grand scale. None. But I'm sure there are some, but I haven't come across them. So why is that? Why is that? So we have like a hypothesis of why that is. I wish I could walk around, but it's a bit difficult with this thing. Well, first of all, if you want to go in and you want to do some machine learning at one of these companies, the first thing you realize is that such a big company have a lot of data systems they use in order to go around, like day by day. Like they have a maintenance system where they write in maintenance stuff. Like this pump is broken, please fix it. Someone else fixes it, goes into the same maintenance system and writes, now I fixed it. The maintenance system is probably very, very good, but the data is in the maintenance system. Similar with sensor data. Sensor data is sent to an historian, like OCSoftPy, and stored there. And then if you want to access data from both the maintenance system and the sensor data, you have to write integrations to both of them. And people have been doing that for a long time, right? So we get these one-to-one point-wise integrations. So for one of the companies we analyzed, they had 4,800 such point-wise integrations. That's a lot. So if you come and you say, I am going to do now predictive maintenance on your compressor, all I need is to write a point-wise integration to Workmate and OCSoftPy. They're going to say, hell no, right? Because we are already maintaining 5,000 such integrations as we are today. So that's all our IT department does, actually, is maintaining those kind of connections. So no way we're going to introduce another one for your one single compressor model. No way. The other problem is to actually, even though if you got the integration, was to make sense of it. So you have an entry in the maintenance system, and you're saying which equipment does that belong to, and where's the sensor data that relates to that. And so one of the analyses we did on that, it turned out that if you took a arbitrary sensor measurement from their historian, and you ask them, you try to, in some automatic way, to say, what's the corresponding equipment? They could do that in less than 60% of the cases. So this is not unique to that company. It's like that everywhere. And the reason is pretty simple, right? It's because it's humans that have entered information both places and didn't think about this problem. That hasn't been standardized across it. So these are like the two basic problems we see from the data side. So what's the solution? First, have one horizontal data platform that takes all the data from the various source systems into one place. That's not going to do it. That's just going to give you a dumb data lake. Second part, make sure it's contextualized. Build one data model for the entire company, which makes sense and is simple enough. Maybe you have to have more than one, but you understand the point? So that you can actually navigate the data, which we call contextualization. So for that pump, give me all the sensor data, all the maintenance logs, all the 3D models, all the technical documentation. Give me where it is in relation to everything else. Give me the connectivity. Right? You have to be able to answer such questions. Then, on top of that, you enable a thriving system of application partners. So you expose this data model to them and you say, now go and do your magic. They don't have to spend 10 months integrating into your system. It's clear. And when you have a different vendor, you can do the same. So you can easily open up to even researchers developing models, or you can open up to small startups developing stuff. And you're not anymore locked into like one big, gigantic, monolithic system. And finally, well, for my part, at least, you have to do something about the infrastructure problem if you're going to enable machine learning. So a huge part of why this is not like in common daily use today, like why doesn't an AkerBP engineer do much machine learning? One reason is because of the coding, but another, maybe the coding skills is not there, maybe they doesn't have the time for it, but another thing is just infrastructure. Give me the fast Fourier transform on raw data for this sensor for the last 11 years. How much time does that take on your laptop? 11 hours maybe? Okay, I didn't want hourly windows, I wanted half-hour window. Maybe 11 new hours. Like, you cannot work like that. So, in order to do that, you also need to take care of this infrastructure problem in a way. Like, leverage Spark in some way in your horizontal data platform. Have somewhere where models can live. If you make a function that calculates something and outputs another number, I don't know, does automatic thesis classification of what you do. It needs to live somewhere, this model. Where is that? You have to take care of that as well. But most importantly is what he's going to talk about, which is you have to change culture.
Yeah, that's one part of the things I'm going to talk about. So what Trygve described is that Cognite can deliver the data to the organization, make sure that people work on the same data, and that eventually in AkerBP we can integrate our workflows. But we have a few other things on top of the Cognite data platform to work on. And the first thing is to really think about what data goes into the platform. And here I've put a few keywords, but the first thing is we need to rethink what data we want to acquire in the field. So we need to rethink the data acquisition strategy and make sure that we plan for future things that we might want to do, that we might want to enable. We might want to bet on certain technologies that could provide much more insight via machine learning and linking some new data types to some events. We also need to rethink the data acquisition in terms of contractors and what they supply. We need to make sure that we get access to the right type of data. Sometimes we need to go back to the actual raw data and not pre-processed information. So eventually, what AkerBP is requesting is transparency from the contractor so that we know exactly what we're working on. Then we need to make sure that that data is organized. And AkerBP is, as you know, a mix of several ex-companies. It's a new company, and we've been working a lot on moving to common databases, defining standards for the various data types. The next step after that would be to define common standards for the industry so that it can fit with our push for sharing information. And that push for sharing information is important in the context of machine learning. That is, if we take, for instance, the issue of risk identification during drilling. Historically, we rely on people remembering what happened on other wells. Then we move to better learning systems. The next step is coming now with automated identification of issues with machine learning. But the next step after that is to really get the experience of the NCS in terms of drilling and learning not only from our own mistakes, but the mistakes of other operators. So that eventually we all end up spending a bit less money and spend that money in IOR instead. A third point is about upgrading the databases as compared to what we've got them now. That is, if we look, for instance, at petrophysical databases, quite often it's already a result of choices, human-made choices. That is, we get one density curve, but actually that density curve has been chosen based on some criteria, but there could be much more information in the base data, which is 20 different sensors recording density. And then we need to rethink what metadata we put along with that. That is environmental information, tool information, so that we can do machine learning on less biased data. And then sometimes we don't want to go back to the raw information. We want to make sure that that we improve the quality of the data by pre-processing it, for instance. So virtual metering is an example of that. That is using models to qualify the data so that it can be used in analytical work. So when we get the data platform in place and all of the complete data, the next thing is to get the organization going in using all of the data and integrating the workflows and automating the processes. The first easy things or easiest thing is on the data visualization part. That is, we have the data available. We can allow all the functions to visualize that data. Here we've got a couple of examples of applications. One is Map Insights, which is a bit like the NPD map application, but with more data types in that. And so you can allow various functions to go and actually see what data is available for the area of interest. Another product is Ops Intelligence, and here it's more asset specific. For instance, visualizing 2D or 3D the facility, picking an equipment, getting the history about it, or getting the pressure data corresponding to that equipment. So putting more context around what data we've got. But the more difficult part is to get the organization going and changing the way we work and transforming the workflows. So there's a part about building culture, and Kalle is fairly good at pushing that down the organization. Now all the management levels need to also provide the same push and allow the teams to contribute. That goes along with building competencies in the organization, providing relevant training. That goes along with supporting universities in creating the right competence coming from universities. It goes with working with partners like Google on getting guidance on what can work and what cannot work. And then it's about starting with examples, use cases. So piloting some ideas like is done in the hackathon. But all of that, in the end, was done. Let's say we've done a lot of activities over the last year around culture and building competence. But the last thing that was sort of missing, that was not ideas, that was time. To actually get things done, and so recently we've gone through a quite heavy prioritization of what we want to achieve, and we've set up what we call the Eureka teams, so cross-functional teams. So for instance, one of them is around the theme of production optimization, where you've got production engineers, process engineers, facility engineers, and then you have data scientists and people from Cognite, all working together in a dedicated fashion on solving problems and getting applications quickly to the community. So that's how we want to progress going forward with a quite strict prioritization and aiming at results that impact the community little by little. Then I wanted to just give a few examples on how where that can lead us, and this picture is sort of a simplified view of what we do in ResDev. That is, we start with a certain data set and a certain experience of the field. We develop an understanding on how things are plumbed, how things work. We create geomodels to reflect that understanding. Then we plan a project, we execute it, and then we work on maximizing production from that. We can split all of these boxes in many different sub-workflows, but high level, that's how it is. And now we can see how the various ideas around machine learning can be mapped on these main activities. And the goal for that is, to improve the quality of the results from each of the pieces of the process. It's to speed it up, so that and automate, so that we can go around that loop a lot quicker and generate value quicker. And also, when we talk quality, it's about building better robustness in the decisions. That is, enabling the community to work on many alternatives, not just one base model. I can't really go through all of the examples, but actually, if you read through that, you can see that it's fair. A lot of them are actually being discussed today. So, I'll wrap up by saying we're trying to enable a community where data is not an obstacle anymore in resolving problems, where the teams are getting trained and encouraged to actually concretize their ideas and transform the way we're working. Eventually, we want to automate most of that workflow and basically get a continuous view of all the opportunities that need to be chased in a certain asset. Yeah. So ambition is a radical way of working and focusing more on detailed planning and execution rather than on screening activity. That's one thing. Now we are progressing on that ladder. That is, we start with the easiest things that are probably data access and quality, visualization, and later alternative ways of working.